So as a Celtics fan, that was a pretty good first night of the regular season, a little stressful, but the two takeaways from this game, and we're going to talk about them, the Tatum buzzer beater, the Giannis missed free throw. There's a lot of other things to talk about between some of the ways both teams looked. Of course, it's game one, and by the way, it was a 1-point game, so we're not going to go too hard, but I don't think it's ever too early to start talking about things and projecting things for teams. So if we talk about the Tatum buzzer beater, I think what we saw in this game, Tatum has fully embraced jacking up three-pointers, and I am all for it. He was 6 for 13 tonight. There was probably like 2 that weren't great. Maybe there was 3, but there were a whole lot that were good. Or they were open, they were pull-ups in transition. There was one in the corner that he just flat out airballed, but most of them were good shots from a guy who has proven that he can make threes off the dribble. And if he's going to, he's probably not going to shoot 13 threes a game this season, but what did he take last year? 7, and during that run where he went nuts, he probably was a little closer to 8 or 9. So, maybe 8 threes a game, 9 threes a game is what we can expect from Tatum, and he's a 40% career three-point shooter, so great. The one thing I will say, he was still a little hesitant drawing contact in this game. There were a number of plays where he either pulled up a little too early or he chose to go with like a fadeaway it just seemed like he could just have a bit of a gather step and just barrel into somebody. Tatum, what is he, 6'9", 2? He's listed at 210, but I feel like he's a little bigger now. I feel like he might be 215, 220, and he's of course very athletic. He should be able to draw more fouls. And I didn't actually look at this, but I finally looked at it now. Tatum had 0 free throw attempts tonight. So for as great of a game as he had, the math would suggest he's going to have to get some easier trips to the basket. But the fact that he's just embracing the threes is amazing. If we go and talk about the Giannis missed free throw, which, Giannis was great. He had 35 points, 13 boards. Defensively, he brought it. Tatum hit the shot over him at the end there, but, it wasn't a bad contest. Certainly not. Look, the missed free throw, he was 6 for 8 overall in the game. Giannis was clearly not the reason they lost this game. However, it is a bit of a conversation in a playoff series where everything is really close, every possession matters, all that stuff. Is Giannis going to blow a game because of free throws? If you go and look at Game 2 against Miami, where they lost by 2 points, I believe there was some BS at the end of this game with the referees, from what I remember. But Giannis, he was 9 for 13 from the free throw line, which is under 70%. And if you want to be cynical about the Bucks, you could be like, well, what we saw from Giannis here, we could see it again. I get it. Can we talk about these teams besides Tatum and Giannis? Jrue Holiday was great. And I think we saw right here that he's better than Eric Bledsoe, mainly because he can just create something out of nothing. Bledsoe was a very good regular season point guard for the Bucks. He can fit into their scheme well enough. He can run pick and rolls with Brook Lopez. He can get some cut plays, and he even managed to be okay from 3 in the regular season. But he wasn't making something out of nothing. That 3 that Holiday hit late in the 4th was really big, and I don't even remember all of his baskets, to be honest, but it was just that shot specifically where I was like, oh yeah, he's way better than Eric Bledsoe. Now, Jrue, for his career, has not been the most efficient player all the time. Like last year, he was like a touch below league average true shooting-wise. His overall game is still very positive. He shot 10 for 16 in this game. He's not going to do that again. But he should be a real option. Khris Middleton was great. And the passing for Middleton was really something in this game. He keeps getting better every season. And I think given the Bucks' offensive thing, which is movement and giving him opportunities to kind of be in pick and rolls, but not just telling him, here's the ball, but more like handoff plays and getting him moving off the ball first. And it just kind of gets him a little bit of separation, and then from there he can get into his pull-up game and he can make passes to guys. So, yeah, look, if Giannis, Jrue, and Middleton are going to be putting up over 20 points a game routinely, then this team is very much a title contender. They already are a title contender. I think the other things to make note of for the Bucks was that DiVincenzo and Connaughton hit some tough threes. I don't know if the Bucks' defense looked drastically different than what they've pretty much been, which is pack the paint. They dared Grant Williams to take a few, and they did a really good job of not fouling the Celtics while contesting. I mean, the Celtics only shot 11 free throws. Like, the reason they won is just because they went nuts from three. 45% on 40 attempts. And Jaylen Brown hit a bunch of tough mid-rangers. We'll talk about him in a second. So I don't know if it's right to be that down on the Bucks after this game. It was really just an awesome game, and the Bucks dared the Celtics to make shots, and they made shots. Anyway, we talk about Jaylen. He was really good. He was looking a little better as a ball handler. He had 4 assists, which is always an interesting thing to see with him. And, I mean, you just go back to the mid-range, the pull-up shooting specifically, and obviously he's not going to make every single pull-up jumper that he takes this season or anything close to it. But when you look at Jaylen's progression as a mid-range shooter, I think there's something there. I mean, it's never been a big go-to in his game, but last year he shot almost 50% from around 13 feet. His long twos have never been that good, and maybe this game was a sign that those can progress into being something. I mean, he's always been a pretty fantastic finisher. He shot 70% at the basket last season, and the threes got better, of course. It's just, without the mid-range, specifically the long twos again, I feel like there was this thing where it kind of hurt Jaylen in terms of being a dynamic scorer. Like, he could score, but he averaged 20 a game last season, and he was really good in the playoffs. His efficiency was pretty crazy in the postseason. But it was still like, well, if we can dare him into this shot, then we can kind of freak him out a little bit or just get him to take an inefficient jumper. And if that's going to be there, then what can happen is basically what happened in this game. I think it's too early, way too early to think that Jaylen is suddenly going to be like a 25-point scorer, but it was a good sign. Other things for the Celtics, Jeff Teague was good. I thought the Celtics offense was honestly not too complex. It was a lot of pick and rolls up top. It wasn't the big man always setting it. Sometimes it was Tatum or Jaylen setting the screen. And they just had creative ways of running what usually is a pretty basic offense. Like, instead of just a pick and roll every time, it was like a little bit of off-ball action first and then into the pick and roll or something, handoff plays, all that nice stuff. And then occasionally it was just, hey, Jayson Tatum and Jaylen Brown, can you please just hit a tough shot? And it worked. Now, with this being said, I still think with Kemba out, the Celtics are going to have to be awesome on defense to really hold the fort down. I think they have the personnel to do that between Tatum, Jaylen, Marcus, Tice, Tristan Thompson, Ogilvy, Grant Williams, Robert Williams if he progresses, and then, of course, Brad Stevens, who has consistently been one of the better to best defensive coaches in the league. I mean, the guy had Isaiah Thomas, and they were not the worst defense. He had Jared Sullinger playing good defense. The guys made it work. So I feel like they can still be all right. Now, the interesting thing was they went with Tice and Tristan to start the game, and I thought that wasn't going to work. And then Daniel Tice made a couple threes. Now, for the game, he shot 2 for 6 from 3, but I feel like stretched Daniel Tice could be a thing. He was always kind of a shooter. No, he wasn't. He took a few threes. He wasn't good at them. He shot 15% from 3 in the playoffs. But you could see it was something he was trying, and maybe he just jacked up like 1,000 threes a day in the offseason in the 2 months we had. And if that's going to be the case, and who knows how good of a shooter he really is, but the first 2 look good. And even the ones he missed, he stepped into with confidence. So could he be like 35% on 3 a game or something? Maybe. And if he is, then, I mean, teams are still going to dare him to shoot, but could be a little extra thing for the Celtics, and it could allow them to go with more size with Tristan and Daniel Tice. And when you combine that with Tatum, Jaylen, and Marcus Smart, suddenly you have a defense that can look pretty damn good. So that's my takeaway from this game. Feels good when you get the first win of the season, and it feels good when Jayson Tatum and Jaylen Brown both score over 30 points. So that was good. Semi Ojeleye hit a 3. The Bucks are still all right. And yeah.